Chapter 10 After the Case. A week later, we were all awarded with medals of bravery by our mayor, and we celebrated afterwards by having a pizza party at my house. This was a nice break during my 2 weeks of being grounded. 2 days later, my parents decided to go out to a movie with Rodney, which I had to miss because I was still grounded. After saying goodbye to my parents, I went into the living room and started to flip through the channels. I was disappointed when I discovered there was nothing on, so I decided to go upstairs and sulk for a while. I got to the bottom of the stairs, when out of the corner of my eye I thought I saw the front door close. I whipped around but didn't see anything. I must be going crazy for being trapped inside for so long, I thought, rolling my eyes. I grumbled all the way up the stairs, angry at having to miss one of our theater nights. I was fuming mad by the time I reached the top of the stairs. Storming angrily down the hall to my room, I made it to my door when I thought I heard footsteps coming up the stairs behind me. But when I looked, I saw nothing. 12 years old and I'm still scared of being home alone. Get a grip on yourself, Tyler. I mean, really, grow up. Opening my door, I went into my room and closed the door behind me. I threw myself on the bed and grabbed my walkie-talkie. Maybe Kurt will come over, and then he can leave before my parents get home. Pressing the button down, I was about to talk into it when I heard my door creak open behind me. Spinning around on my bed, I hid my walkie-talkie behind my back with my right hand, still holding the button down. I saw a tall, thin man with short, wavy black hair, a long black mustache, long nose, and eyes that seemed to pierce straight through me. He was dressed completely in black and held a gun in his hand that he pointed straight at me. From his position in front of my door, he could certainly kill me if I tried anything. So I'm not crazy, you know. You aren't very quiet, mister, I snapped, hoping he hadn't noticed my walkie-talkie and trying to speak loud enough for Kurt would know something was up when he heard it. Hello, Tyler Bowen, I presume. Scar said you were polite. I guess even he makes mistakes in judgment sometimes. The man spoke calmly, too calmly. I gasped at the mention of Scar. What do you want? I snarled loudly, still trying to speak loud enough for Kurt to hear. He laughed. You really aren't very polite, are you? Scar sent me. He warned you about slavery, did he not? He asked, and when I nodded, he continued. He only ever says what he means, you know. So he sent me to keep his promise. Since you sent him to prison, you are messing with some very dangerous people. We have an international slave ring. We find kids, women, men, whatever the customer wants. Then we bring them to the customer who pays handsomely. It's a shame it's illegal here because we have to ship the slaves overseas on our private jet. He had been inching forward as he spoke, so I started to inch to my left, keeping my front to him at all times. We went around in a circle until my back was against my door. I thought I'd scored a victory. But he just grinned at me. Go ahead, go through the door. We have to go downstairs anyway. Why not begin your trip with a little cooperation? I was worried by his confidence, so I just stood there glaring at this strange man who suddenly might be in control of my future. Ching, Ching, come here, Kurt shouted as he leaned over his walkie-talkie, listening to something which he wasn't yet sure of. Ching came running into Kurt's bedroom, puzzled by his sudden urgency. What? Just listen, Kurt replied, waving his hand at Ching. They both leaned over the walkie-talkie, listening intently. It crackled again. Go ahead, go through the door. We have to go downstairs anyway. Why not begin your trip with a little cooperation? A creepy voice intoned tauntingly. They both shot worried and surprised glances at each other. Holy crap, he's talking to Tyler, Ching shouted. We have to help him. Kurt disappeared into his closet, and he started moving things onto the floor. When he turned around, he had his slingshot in one hand and a bag of marbles in the other. Grab the walkie-talkie and let's go, Kurt shouted as he popped open his window and crawled through it, dropping onto the ground below. Wait for me, Ching shouted as he grabbed the walkie-talkie and stuck it in his pocket. You're going to come with me, the man in black continued to persuade. We are going to leave this house, and by the time anyone realizes that you are gone, we will be out of this city and off to local police turf. By the time they contact the higher authorities, we will be on that private jet, flying over the ocean out of this country beyond their turf as well. Once they realize you aren't even in the country, you'll be on a completely different continent, too far away for anyone to help you. He laughed at his own cleverness. So it's hopeless for you. You might as well just cooperate and save me some trouble. As he spoke the last sentence, I noticed Kurt's head pop up in the tree right outside my window. I soon noticed Ching's head pop up as well. When I saw that he was going to jump from the tree onto the roof below my window, I spoke loudly so that I could hopefully cover the sound. "No! You'll never get away with this. You are crazy. You will never get me out of this house alive." Ching jumped as I spoke and landed with a thud, but I continued shouting, "Now get out of my house before I call the police." He glared at me angrily, but his look turned into a puzzled one. What was that? He started to turn, but I shouted at him again. "You see, you are crazy. Now you're hearing things." He stopped, turning and snarled, "Shut up, kid, before I lose my patience." As he spoke the last sentence, Kurt let his marble fly through my open window. It landed with a dull thud right in the stranger's lower back. "Ow!" he shouted angrily. He started to turn again, but as he was half turned, Ching dove through the open window and slammed into the stranger. They landed hard, and the gun went skidding across my floor into the far corner of the opposite side of the room. Ching was on top of the man's legs, so I jumped into his midsection. Kurt was soon in the room as well, and we all struggled to keep the man down. He flung me off, and I slammed into the wall right beside my door, which hurt a lot. Kurt looked at me and shouted, "Quick, Tyler, call the police." As I slowly got up, Ching got off the man's legs and tried to get the gun. The man grabbed his leg, and Ching hit the floor hard. I ran out of the room and down the stairs. After the man had pulled Ching down, Kurt jumped on the man's stomach really hard. The wind was knocked out of him, and he briefly let go of Ching. But Ching was still too shocked to do anything. The man swung his left hand up and hit Kurt in the chest, flinging him onto my bed. Kurt jumped on the man right away as Ching tried to struggle free. He managed to get free again after kicking the man's hand, but the man hopped up and grabbed him again. Kurt was now struggling to keep the man's feet down while Ching stretched out and tried to get his hand on the gun. He was just inches from getting it, but the man was not having any of it and tried to pull him back again. Kurt now grabbed my lamp off the nightstand with his right hand and swung it downwards on the man's head. The man saw it coming, and he moved his head just in time. The lamp shattered on the floor harmlessly, but it was enough of a distraction for the man to loosen his grip on Ching's leg. Ching reached out and grabbed the gun. The man still had Ching's foot, but Ching took the gun in both hands. Spinning around, he fired the gun, aiming at the man's head. I heard the shattering of glass when I was on the phone with Chief Goodall and jumped. That was quickly followed by a gunshot. I gasped, "There was a shot. You have to hurry." "I'm in my vehicle and on my way," Chief Goodall shouted as he hung up the phone. Squealing his tires as he peeled away from the police station, he flipped on his siren. Officer Thompson's police car followed him closely, both cars leaving an acrid smell of burning rubber behind them. I hung up the phone and ran to our hall closet. I grabbed my baseball bat and took the stairs two at a time. I flew down the hallway and threw open my bedroom door with my bat ready to swing. What I saw shocked me. The man was lying sprawled on the floor. Ching was sitting against my bed, staring at the body, and Ching was sitting on the other side of the bed with the gun hanging limply from his fingers. "You're a little late. I shot him. I actually shot somebody. I guess that makes me a killer. I don't feel like a killer," Ching mumbled, barely moving his lips and not even looking up. He just stared and mumbled at the man lying on the floor. Dropping my bat to the floor, I knelt down beside the body. I slowly and cautiously reached my hand out to the man's throat, feeling for a pulse. I felt a strong pulse and laughed. "That's because you aren't a killer. He's not dead, just unconscious." "I don't believe you, man. Everyone knows you have to aim for a person's heart. It's an easier target. What kind of movies do you watch anyway?" Ching and Kurt's heads both popped up excitedly. "He's not dead? I'm not a killer? Right on!" Ching cheered, lifting both hands into the air, the gun in his right hand. "Whoa! Keep the gun lowered, man. Point it at him. If he wakes up, you might need to finish the job," Kurt shouted worriedly as we heard the sirens approaching and screeching as cars came to a stop outside the house. I heard an old lady's voice and recognized it as my next-door neighbor's. "I heard a shot, officer. Is everything all right?" "It better not be that brat messing around again, or I'll tan his hide. Something his parents should have done a long time ago." I stood there, standing in the hall, looking over a railing as Chief Goodall entered gun first. "It's all right. He's up here on my floor unconscious." Chief Goodall lowered his gun slowly as he looked up at me. He stepped forward and 3 officers followed him in. The lights from the police cars were reflecting blue and red on the glass of the door. "Search the house. Make sure he was the only one." He came up the stairs and down the hall into my room. Seeing the man on the floor, he checked for a pulse right away. Satisfied that the man was alive, he cuffed him and called for Officer Thompson. When Thompson walked in, he immediately told him to take Pascalato away to the hospital, make sure he didn't leave the hospital until Pascalato was well enough to go to the police station. As Pascalotto was taken away, Chief Goodall took the gun from Ching. I'll have to get statements from all of you. Tyler, I'll have someone clean this mess up, he said, indicating the blood on the floor. As we were leaving my room, Chief Goodall... Right in your...
Sorry, guys.
I'll have to get statements from all of you, Tyler. I'll have someone clean this mess up, he said, indicating the blood on the floor. As we were leaving my room, Chief Goodall started to laugh. What? We asked curiously. He stopped and looked at us, so we turned around and looked at him. I was just thinking, I wouldn't want to mess with you kids after what you did to get Kim free, and now this, he chuckled and shook his head. We followed him downstairs. I would feel better if all of you came back with me to the station until we can get hold of your parents. You can all ride with me in my car. Kurt's head popped up right away and he shouted, I call front. And he took off running for the door. No fair, Ching and I shouted and took off after him, but to no avail as he got there first. Chief Goodall was now at ease. He now had Pascalotto, so he didn't have to worry about him popping up anywhere else. Now he could truly feel that he had solved the case. At the police station, Kurt and Chief Goodall both got out and started walking towards the red brick station building, leaving us locked in the back of the police car. Ching and I both looked at each other and panicked. Hey guys, don't leave us in here. The end.